Dream broke, but it's clear now. No handouts, had to get down. Now what they fear now. No money millionaire, we here now. Got scars, but I wear that crown. Turn pain to a real account. No money, no excuses, no limits.
Welcome to the No Money Millionaire podcast. This is where we break down how to build wealth from nothing but creativity, confidence, and strategy. I'm Dave Webb, your No Money Millionaire. If you're looking for excuses, this isn't the place. If you're looking for real ways to get ahead, well, you're in the right place. My guest today is Bob Wheeler, CPA, author, comedian, somatic therapist, and the mind behind the money nerve. He spent more than 30 years helping people understand why they make the financial decisions they make and how their emotions play a bigger role in money than most people ever admit. He's the host of Money You Should Ask, creator of the Financially Fit Kids series, and the CFO of the world-famous Comedy Store. His work blends psychology, emotional awareness, finances, and real-world experience in a way that actually makes sense. Bob, glad to have you.
David, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So, Bob, before I get started, I like to let the guests introduce themselves a little bit. Tell us, who is Bob Wheeler?
Oh, my goodness. Bob Wheeler. Well, you know, my bread and butter is CPA, so I'm an accountant at heart. And I also am interested in my own journey, self-reflection. How can I do better? What did I miss? And so for me, this journey has been my journey has been about how do I keep showing up as the best version or at that moment, and how can I make it even better? And forgive myself when I don't show up perfectly and just keep moving forward.
Okay, great. Well, all right. Well, you talk a lot about the connection between emotions and money.
Yeah.
Most people pretend money is just math.
Yeah.
But it never really is.
It never really is.
Where'd the whole idea of the money nerve come from?
Well, what happened was I was doing a lot of tax meetings with people.
Okay.
People would end up crying. I ended up doing therapy sessions. Spouses would be like, we have dinner writing on this. Who's wrong? Right. Oh, and so there was just so much to unpack with people before I could even get to the numbers. And I work with a lot of creatives. And so if I'm not able to get to them in the first 10 minutes, they're out. Their eyes glaze over. They're running for the hills. Yeah. And so I just realized, wow, there's such a connection here. It's so loaded. And I would watch people. You know, I had a client who had a failing business. Somebody offered to pay him $200,000-$300,000 a year to come and run their company. And he said, I can't take it because my parents will be disappointed if I let this business go. Well, the business failed anyway, right? Sure. But he couldn't voluntarily let it go to something that would actually pivot him into a much better position. And I just found it really fascinating that people would do what was not in their best interest in order to be right, in order to make their parents happy, in order to make their parents disappointed, whatever it is. We do these things and it's internal and a lot of it's unconscious.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big connection with money and a lot more than we actually really know, just like you said. What's the pattern you see over and over again when it comes to emotional money decisions?
Well, there's sort of two. One is I don't deserve. When there's a lot of money coming in, I don't deserve. If people only knew, there are more deserving people. And when it comes to spending, I deserve it now. I shouldn't have to wait. I should live the life I'm entitled to. And so not a lot of delayed gratification, in both instances, a lot of reaction versus reflection, right? Sure. We're just reacting instead of, wait, let me take a breath and let me respond appropriately. Because we got to deal, because we want to get, what I see a lot, people inherit money or they get a big windfall. Mm-hmm. A week later, they've already gotten rid of all the money. Well, I had to pay off my debt. And I had to, why didn't you just let it sit in your bank for a little bit and thank it for being there? No. I gotta move it along. I'm not comfortable with more than this amount on my bank account. I'm not comfortable with this more than this amount of assets.
Yeah. Interesting. My son ended up getting some money. Well, it was actually on his wife's side. They ended up getting some money, and I asked them. I said, "Listen, you guys, will you just put it in? Just put it in a CD. Just let it sit for a while,
Yeah.
and then try to make some decisions for it. Try to plan it, but don't have it and spend it. Try to plan it." And they did it, and they did well. They put it in a 9-month CD,
Okay.
and they gave them almost a year of trying to figure out the right thing to do and not be really impulsive, because by putting in the CD you have the penalty. So
Right.
it makes it, I told them, don't just put it in a bank account, put it in a
Yep.
CD where you have that little penalty you're aware of. And then, and they did that. And I was happy. I was really happy for them that they were able to do that. I thought they were going to get it and just be rich and just, and when people's not had money and then they get a little bit of money that like they've never had before,
Yeah.
it seems more than it really is to them.
Right.
And like, it's not going to end. They can just get it and it's just going to be there, and it just goes so fast. So
It goes so fast.
so someone's listening, for someone who's listening right now who says, I'm not emotional about money, what's the first sign they actually are?
Usually them saying that clues me in that there might be some denial. I had my editor told me that she had no emotions with money. And I knew her a little bit. And I said, okay, when you go to lunch with your dad, who pays for lunch? She goes, oh, my dad does. I'm his little princess. I said, who pays for lunch when you go with your mom? She said, well, I do, because I feel like, my parents got separated and I need to take care of her. And I said, who pays for lunch when you go out with your sister? She goes, oh, it's 50-50 because we're equal. Oh, okay. I guess I have some emotions around money, right? Even something simple as deciding who's going to pay for lunch. The great way to find out if you have any emotions, eat lunch with a group of people that have all ordered the lobster and the alcohol, and you had a salad and water, and see if you want to split the bill equally.
Yeah. I know somebody who goes, whenever he's invited to go somewhere, he takes it as like, this is free ticket. That's my opportunity to have something I've never had before.
Right.
And he does it. He's like, he's looking for whether it's the oysters or if it's caviar. It's stuff he's never in his life normally have. But when someone invites him to dinner, he's immediately looking for something like that. And we laugh about it all the time. It's just, it's that moment for him. It's kind of crazy. So why do you think shame and fear run so deep when it comes to finances?
Well, I think it's a combination. Our parents have some shame around some money choices they made. Their particular environment, maybe they were in a fire and brimstone church that said money is evil. Maybe they grew up in, an ethnicity where money was really frowned upon. Or, maybe their family is artists, or it's our socialization. But there are so many ways that we have shame around. I made bad choices. I never deserved to get all this money, and now people are looking at me. And so the other thing with that is that most people I talk to about their shame feel like they're alone. I'm the only one making bad choices. Everybody else knows how to do it. Everybody else looks like a solid functioning adult. And if anybody found out that I'm just faking it, oh, my world's going to crumble. And so we just internalize it instead of just going, hey, I don't know what to do. Hey, I need help. It's just like, oh my God. If they find out, I got to present well. I got to present.
Sure. That blunt honesty with yourself is a tough one for a lot of people.
It is.
It's a tough one. Just to say, hey, could you help me? It's so, and those who do it, it's so easy. But for those who don't do it, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And I see that in some, I renovate my own, I own about 100 single family homes, apartments and whatnot. And I renovate my own. I have a crew, they go out, we renovate them. And some of the guys that I get in the construction trade, you'll ask them, do you know this? Do you know that? Absolutely have never done it before, but but will take it to their grave that they've done it and they know it. And then you're like, okay, here. And then it's like, well, why did you tell us you knew this, and it shows itself so fast, but people will, they will like defend it so much. It's crazy.
It's, we love to be right, or we love to think that we're right. And we don't want anybody to know that we don't know. And I think one of the things, like in my practice, and this was with work, and this was with, looking at myself and all this stuff, but, clients will say, hey, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do foreign taxes? Do you know how to do this? You know what? I've never done that. I'm happy to look it up, or I'm happy to find you somebody that can do it. And I'll get back to you either way. And then I found a lot of people were like, well, I want you to do it and figure it out, because I'd rather that than somebody that's just saying they do know, and I don't trust that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, before I got into real estate, I luckily had a good mentor, and he taught me sales. And, one of the things that worked for me, the same thing, I would encounter stuff and people would ask me a question, and I was like, I don't know that, but I guarantee you I will, and I will find out for you. And, it just, when you're able to just say that, the people appreciate it much more and kind of bond with you better, because you're just honest and sincere, and so everything just goes a lot smoother. And, so maybe I picked it up and learned it in my sales, career. But I would, just like you, I'd be like, I don't know it, but I will find out for you, and guarantee someone will never ask me that question again, and I don't know it. I'll tell you that. So, No, finish. Go ahead, please.
Well, it's interesting. I did a workshop up in Canada, and I had to have a translator because it was all in French. And during the part of it, there was a conflict, and so I said to the people, "Look, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to miss things. And I said all these things about myself." Sure. And afterwards, the translator, who was also a facilitator, said to me, "I would never admit to anybody that I'm going to make mistakes." And I said, "Wow, I feel really sorry for you, because you're under so much pressure to be perfect. Me? Hey, I'm going to mess up. I'm already telling you up front, but I'll hold myself accountable for it. Doesn't mean I'm going to use it as an excuse."
Yeah, no, it's much more appreciated, I think. And a lot of people will, like I said, appreciate it, from you, that you said that, and you're honest and sincere. So no, I agree with you 100%. And what, a weight that, like you said to him, like, man, I feel bad for you. What a weight you lift off your shoulders, that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have every answer. It's like, I know what I know, and I try to know what I know the best that I can. And when I encounter something I don't, well, I'm going to do what I do and try to learn it the best that I can. So
absolutely.
So you're one of the few people who openly talks about financial trauma and financial infidelity. Most people hear those words and have no clue what they mean. How do you define them?
So financial trauma might have been, my parents had a bankruptcy. Like I've had this happen with a couple clients, well-to-do clients, kids are in private school. They lose everything. Kids are in high school. Now they have to go to public school. They lose all their friends. Everybody knows that their business failed. There's a lot of trauma in that. There's like, hey, it was my dad, it was my mom. But everybody's like, yeah, but now you have to go and drive, the little car, and you have to go to the lesser school, right? And so there's a lot of trauma around that. Or maybe their parents, I've had where parents, the dad gambled all the time, and then the kids it was feast or famine, and you just never knew what you were going to get. And so learning to look at that trauma and say, oh, okay, it doesn't define me. It impacted me. Mm-hmm. How do I learn to just let it come and go? Oh, that's just a moment of let this go through me. And then I can move on. Right. But if we don't recognize that there's been trauma, then we're just going to be like reacting. And what I find is most people, whether it's finances and most things in our life, but with finances, we're reacting to keep anybody from finding out versus, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I had this thing happen and it really messed me up. And now I don't trust people or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's, for me, trauma. And then infidelity.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. I was working with a woman, her parents ultimately got divorced. But the wife would go out and shop, buy all kinds of new stuff, spend $5,000-10,000, bring it home, hide it in the closet for a month.
Okay.
Then she would wear it, and her husband would say, "Isn't that new?" And she's like, "No, I've had it." And she had all the kids in on the secrets.
Yeah.
And so there was a lack of trust in the relationship because she couldn't have an honest relationship with her husband and he with her. They couldn't actually just say, "Hey, I don't want you to spend the money because we got to pay the mortgage." Right. Yeah. And so they just avoided those conversations, or secret credit cards that comes up a lot.
Wow.
Wow. And it erodes trust. So you're cheating a little bit because you're not being transparent with your partner.
Sure. I'm a big believer in energy. And I think that energy, it goes so much that, we transfer it. We transfer it to one another. And, that holding that within, keeping those secrets, you transfer that to a way to like someone around you, and they may not know exactly why they feel the way they feel or have doubts or suspicions the way they feel. They may not know exactly, but I feel truly like you're transferring these feelings or these emotions that you're withholding, and the other people, they're receptive to it. They just don't know exactly. They just get these feelings, and I'm a firm believer in that. And
Absolutely.
I think that couples and people run into that. So.
Yeah, all the time, and it's interesting. I'll have couples say to me, when I do workshops, and pre-COVID, I did a lot more in-person workshops because people were into it, but I would have somebody say, "Hey, my husband, how do I get my husband to do the right thing? He's always doing this and this." Or, "How do I get my wife to stop doing this? She just doesn't get it." And I would say, well, maybe if you actually tell him that you're working on your financial inventory and could they help you get yours together, it's a lot less defensive. I don't need to defend myself because you're not attacking me. You're asking me to help you. And when we just changed the languaging of, "Hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Can you help me understand what's going on?" It changes the dynamic versus all that energy of like, "Why are you asking me this? And I'll do what I want. And how dare we go into that energy.
Sure. And the defense mode comes up a lot quicker than the help.
So much quicker.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, okay, what are the most damaging money wounds you see in adults? I heard you mention a couple earlier from trauma, but, what do you see as like the most damaging?
Well, a lot of us substitute money for love.
Okay.
And so, if you're not good to me, I'm taking you out of the will. You're not going to inherit anything. If you're not good, you're not going to get a raise. If you don't toe the line. And so we use money as a negotiating tool against family members and friends. And again, sometimes unconscious, right? Yeah. I can afford to do this. You can't. And if you don't behave a certain way, you're not going to get the benefit of my gifts to you. And so there's a lot of shaming around that.
Okay.
I mean, one of the biggest things I see is people feeling like I don't deserve this. Like there's so many other better people in the world. I don't deserve it. I've not done enough. And so, which is interesting. It really sort of equates to I'm not lovable. Right. And I've had people say to me, my parents, if I were to go bankrupt, my parents they would hate me forever. Wow. They would be so disappointed. And I often say to people, ask your parents how much money you have to lose for them to stop loving you. They're like, what? Sure. Right? Let's get into some real conversations. How much money do I have to make me lovable? And how much do I have to lose to make me despicable?
Yeah.
And, people are just like, wow, that's sobering.
Sure, of course. Yeah, I mean, when that question, why don't you go back and ask your parents how much you need to lose for them to stop loving you? I mean, if that doesn't like jar them awake, I mean, but still, I mean, those things you mentioned, I could see how they're deep rooted and probably difficult to actually to face and overcome.
Investorfy, the #1 lending source for first-time and early-stage investors. Just learned how to find your first deal? Let's get it funded. Investorfy, the only No Money Millionaire certified lender. Find us at Investorfy Lending or visit our website at investorfylending.com. Investorfy, turning new investors into trained professionals. What are you waiting for? Schedule your free review today.
Well, and the thing is, look, it's not, I'm not blaming parents, right? Because I don't want this to be a blame thing. Our parents didn't know things. My parents did not know a lot of things around money. And so it was on me to, at a certain point, figure it out. But with my parents, they were always struggling for money. And if I had money in a savings account, or if I had a coin collection that was worth something, when I was a kid, those things would just disappear when they needed to pay the mortgage or they needed to pay. And so at a certain point, I was like, oh, it doesn't pay to have any money because somebody will take it from you. So for a while, I was making a lot of money and making sure my bank account was zero so that I didn't have to give it to anybody.
Right. My parents split when I was real young, and I ended up staying with my mother, and she got on welfare and all that. And before that, we didn't live that way. We weren't on welfare. Everything was fine. But when she was on her own, she was raising 2 kids, and she was trying to put herself through school, and she needed assistance at the time. So we were on welfare. And so she'd give me, at that time, they were actually the food stamps. And so I would take those to have to buy the groceries and stuff, and wanting to like kind of hide them when I'm trying to spend them. And then also she became a member of a church, and they had a food pantry. And so I remember in there one time getting food out of the pantry, and one of the kids that I was in like the Bible class with, one of the kids was there with their mother, and they were like, "Look, mommy, they're taking the food that we brought, or we gave." And so, I believe some of those experiences was a big drive for me because I just knew I wanted money when I was young. Yeah. I didn't know how, or I didn't really have any like purpose other than I just wanted it. And I'm sure a lot of those cases that I can recall were a big driving factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, not to interpret here, but when we're saying we want more money, in a way, we're wanting more control. We're wanting to be able to have choice. Sure. And when we're not able to pay the rent, we're not able to pay for groceries, we don't have a lot of choice. We're in survival mode. Yeah. And so it's not about like, I have to have more money than everybody else. It's, I want to be able to not have to feel embarrassed or ashamed that I have to ask for things that other people have in general.
Yeah. So you've said you've made the financial mistakes so other people don't have to. So give me one mistake that hit you hard enough to shift your entire philosophy.
Gosh. Well, one of the things that I did, I walked away from a 10-year job at a CPA firm with no plan.
Wow.
Because I couldn't be there anymore. The environment was not healthy for me, and I had learned a lot, but I had to go. And I literally just quit on an impulse. Did not have savings put away. I had not done my personal work at that time, and I just walked. And I was broke for 2 years. Like, I was broke because I had no clients. I just walked. Yeah. And so those 2 years were really painful because I had to give up a lot of things that I had gotten used to having. But in the long run, it made me hungry to like get back on track and do it in a way that felt right for me. So I ended up creating my own firm. Started out with me. Ultimately, now I've got 26 employees.
Good for you.
And we've grown exponentially, and we give really good service. So, but just walking away without any plan, it felt good in that moment of like, I don't have to take this anymore, but I didn't have a plan. And financially, it was a huge hit. My car broke down. I had to borrow somebody else's car, living with a friend. Like because I lost everything.
Sure.
Because I didn't plan. I just reacted.
Yeah. So what about Africa? What changed your beliefs around money in Africa?
So Africa was a really interesting thing for me. I was socialized to believe, even though my parents didn't always do this, but I was socialized to believe that I am my accomplishments. So if I'm not making lots of money, then my value has gone down. My stock has gone down. Okay. And so I am my accomplishments. And I was in Africa and, had my Mercedes back at home and was doing all the right things. And these people were making less than $100 a year, and they were happy. And I was like, what is wrong with these people? And I'm like, you cannot be happy. Stop being so happy. What is wrong with you? You don't have a car. You don't have shoes. You don't have, and they were just happy. Oh, but we're happy to be alive. And, are you going to use this empty container? Can we have it? We'd love to use. That's trash. Right. And I couldn't get over. I just remember thinking they are so wrong. Don't they know how wrong they are to just be happy with this?
Yeah.
And when I got back and I just saw all of the wealth and the waste and the taking things for granted, I just realized, wow, I have not been coming from a place of gratitude. Sure. I have just coming from a place of, I got to have more than everybody else so I can be valued, instead of, wow, isn't life amazing? And what I do have is pretty cool. And it's actually enough. Yeah. Because it had never been enough before.
Sure. I can understand that. We don't see the levels of poverty like that's outside of this country. We don't see it here. And here everything is centered and based on building wealth and being wealthy. And, there's, you get outside of it, I've traveled to Peru a bunch. And so you get outside of here and you see people who the wealth, everything that we're focused on here, well, that's not even like in their thoughts. That's not anything that they're thinking about. And they just experience and are happy with just life experiences. And it's enlightening. It's amazing. I haven't been to Africa, but going to Peru, I was like, wow.
Any developing country is going to help you see that. Like, I always encourage people to travel because it was such an eye-opening experience for me. I've been to Peru and I've been to, Central America. I've been to India. I've been to Nepal. I've just been to a lot of places where people struggle. And like, even in my last trip to Africa, I was in Zimbabwe and there was a women's collective and they were sewing things and teaching women how to start a business and sew things. Okay. And they were trying to save up $200 to buy a sewing machine because it was about $200 per sewing machine. And I was with a group of people and I threw in $500. Somebody else threw in $400. We gave them enough money to buy 5 or 6 sewing machines. To us, nice. That was a weekend getaway, right? Yeah, it's dinner. To them, it was life-changing. And they couldn't even believe, like, for them, it was a miracle that we gave them the money to buy 5 machines. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, how could I not once I heard their story? But that's the kind of thing when we go to other places and see what they don't have. And I think from Africa, what I also learned, and I've read it other places too, I've learned to ask, am I happy? Like, Are you happy? Like, because if you're miserable, what's the point?
Yeah. Bringing that to a lot that I speak on, about, trying to achieve financial freedom and building wealth. Most of my younger portion of my life, I was just chasing money. I didn't know the why. I just knew I wanted it. And, it was struggles though. It was never really was forming the way that I wanted it to. Not so much as when I found the why. You know,
Right.
it's not just so much about money. It's why. Why do you want to do this? And getting, are you happy? I was tying it into that. Are you happy? Because, you know, if you're just chasing money, that's not giving you the happiness. You know,
It's not.
when you're achieving your why and you see you're actually doing what you're trying to set out to do, then you start feeling rewarded and the happiness comes in, I feel.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that because I have a what, why, what.
Okay.
Whenever I'm doing things, what, why, what? What do I want? Why do I want it?
Okay.
Why don't I have it? What am I willing to do to make it happen? And for me, to your point, it's important to know the why. It may be that I'm superficial and I just want everybody to think I'm super cool. Okay, I'm not going to judge that, right? But if I don't know the real why,
Yeah.
there was a guy, he was like, I like to look really cool and drive fancy cars. And that was his why. And so what was he willing to do? Look for really fancy cars on sale at auction so that he could look super cool and not spend the money of looking super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. A few minutes ago, you had just said Nepal. So I read that you talk a lot about baby steps.
Yeah.
So what was that about Nepal and the Everest base camp?
Yeah. So I've been to Nepal a couple of times. And the second time I went, I was with a group of friends, family and friends. And I was sort of the group leader because I had been before and I knew the Sherpas from the last time and everything. And the very first day when you get to Nepal to go to base camp, it is a very hard day. You go way down into this valley before you have to go way back up high. Okay. And after the first day, everybody in the group was like, yeah, let's just go back and stay in Kathmandu. This is hard. And I'm like, no. Because I'm frugal. I'm like, I just spent $10,000 on this trip.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm getting my money's worth. And so I realized everybody was just like, we're not doing it. You want me to hike over to that mountain over there after what we just did today? Not happening. So quickly thinking, I just said, I'll tell you what, let's hike for an hour. At the end of the hour, let's decide as a group whether we're going to keep going or head back. They're like, okay, we hiked an hour. And we did that for the first 3 days. Every hour I would stop and go, are we in or are we going home? Nope, we can do another hour. Ultimately, then we got to half a day and all that stuff. And it takes about 10 days to get to base camp. But what I found was when I didn't try to tell myself I had to get from A to Z, that I just needed to focus on getting to B, and then I'll worry about getting to C. Most of us think we've got to get to A to Z, and it's overwhelming.
Sure.
And so if I can get it into digestible bites, I could do that. I can save this much for this amount of time. I can get up every day and do this for this many days, instead of trying to eat the whole elephant.
You know, I talk a lot to people who are maybe just coming into real estate because, you know, I talk about where I come from, you know, being on, you know, welfare, coming out of the inner city of Detroit and all of that. And a lot of people that I know from where I'm from are still struggling. They're still, you know, stuck with, and they don't know, they don't understand that this is, you know, available to them. They don't know that they can build wealth or do real estate without having to use their own money and the set beliefs that they have. And that's what I kind of teach them to do. But it goes down to, like you said, the baby steps. I say, just take that first step. When you take that first step, then you can take the second one. Then you can take the third one. It's that first one that people have to, because they're thinking, I got to go from here to here. I got to do the whole thing. And it's not. Just start. Just start working your way in that direction. And you can really, you know, the momentum will build. You'll get 3 days in and not want to turn around, you know? Like,
sure.
You know, so.
Well, exactly. And the thing is this, let's say you take 3 steps and you fall back 2. You're still 1 step ahead, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But we focus on the 2 steps back. No, focus on the net gain.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the Financially Fit Kids book series. Why was teaching kids about money so important to you?
Well, one of the things growing up for me, and again, this is not blame, this is just the reality. My parents didn't have a lot of skill set around money. And when I would say yes or no to something in my family, if you said yes, you were committed to that yes for the rest of your life. You couldn't You couldn't say, no, I don't want a dog, or I do want a dog, or that's too much responsibility. You like whatever you said, you were committed to. And what I realized is a lot of kids, and a lot of parents don't know how to set boundaries, don't know that it's okay to say no, don't know it's okay to change your mind, don't understand the importance of savings, don't understand the importance of delayed gratification. And I wanted to write a series of books where you could read the story, all those things show up. And then at the end, there are questions for parents or teachers to ask, like, how much does it cost to keep your dog? What do you like about having a pet? What do you not like about having a pet? Have you ever been in a situation where somebody asked to borrow money, right? And just trying to, again, normalize conversations around money, setting healthy boundaries, and being able to actually check in with yourself and say, yes, I want to do this, or I don't. Because as we get older, if somebody said, hey, do you want to sign up for this gym membership for the next 50 years at $1 million a month? I'm like, sure. Because I didn't know how to say no. Right. And I would find myself going, why did I do that? Yeah. And I wanted to create a space for people to start having those conversations, because I don't feel like we have them enough.
Early on, my father, I saw he had gotten an answering machine, because he was a person that when somebody was trying to sell him something on the telephone, my father just couldn't say no. Right. And his way was just to stop, get off the phone. And the conversation was to just buy whatever someone had called to sell him. So he got an answering machine. It was the first one, that I had encountered that, he had gotten it was for, he didn't have to answer the phone because he'd end up buying what they were trying to sell because he couldn't say no. And, I'd have to call and say, it's me, pick up, and so, but yeah, he got it really because he couldn't say no to what was being sold to him.
And what I love about that, some people would say, well, why couldn't he just learn it? No, know yourself. If there are certain things that you're not good at, create roadblocks so that those things don't come at you. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way. When I was younger and somebody would say, buy the TV, buy this thing. Oh, got to talk to my spouse. Oh yeah, I totally get it. Never mind. Right. So I would always, put it on your spouse, put it on your boyfriend, your girlfriend, put it on your kids. My kids won't let me. And people then will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I totally get it. Well, if they let you, let me know. But I couldn't advocate for myself. And a lot of us are not good at advocating for ourselves, but we're great at advocating for others.
Sure. And, talking about educating kids for finances and money. Well, that's not done. It's not. They don't teach us in school how we should be looking and handling our finances and all of this stuff. So, and a lot of parents don't do it. And then, they don't. But if they do you see something that they get wrong often teaching kids about money?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I've done talks and workshops with parents and kids, and often a parent thinks that they have to be perfect in all their information.
Sure. And
again, it goes back to, what? Hey, kids, I actually don't know. I never learned that. Hey, let's learn that together. I don't know why I said, you can't have that. There's poor kids in the world. Well, what does that have to do with me affording this? Versus, hey, I got to cover the mortgage this month, and we've got property taxes, and so the important thing, what gets missed sometimes is they don't have the conversation because they're not comfortable with an honest answer, or they don't know the answer, and it's not going to be perfect. I think the best way to do it is just take that first step. Have a conversation, mess it up. Be willing to say, mom and dad don't know everything, but we're learning. Even if you just make it a game of how much do you think we spend on you got the kids, you got the grocery cart. How much do you think it's going to cost when we total it up? $100, $500? Right. Make it a game. Yeah. So the kids start to go, oh, this is everyday life. We don't really teach them. They go from high school to college, maybe. Mm-hmm. But either way, once they finish high school, go fly. I've given you no tools. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and haven't been taught in school either, you know?
No, not at all.
So do you think there's any like core principle by in children that they should know by any particular time?
I think it's important to start to understand the value of a dollar, like that it doesn't just, hey, mom and dad, give me money. Here's like, and studies have shown kids that do chores for an allowance have a much better appreciation of money later on. And kids that learn delayed gratification further in life, much more successful. Stanford, many years ago, did the Stanford marshmallow study.
Okay.
And they told a kid, you can have this marshmallow now, but if you wait 15 minutes, you get 2 marshmallows. Well, they did this study, and then they followed these kids into adulthood and tracked them. And they found that the kids that could learn to wait for the 2 marshmallows had much more fulfilling lives financially and other aspects of their life because they had learned to not just go, I got to have it now. They learned, like, if I wait, it can actually pay off bigger dividends.
Sure. This whole new era that we're in, everything is instant. Everything is. So there's not waiting for anything these days.
No.
Not information, not anything.
Yeah. I mean, anybody listening, the last time, what, Amazon's not bringing that until Thursday? Are you kidding me? What? Wait, they're not going to deliver it same day?
Exactly. Yeah.
We used to wait weeks for my auto parts to come from my catalog when I used to tinker with a car.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's amazing. It is crazy with Amazon. If it's like, this won't be here for 3 days. You're like, wait a minute, what? Yeah.
How will I live?
Yeah. How things have changed. How crazy.
For sure.
So you've got decades as a CPA.
Yeah.
What are the biggest tax or accounting mistakes that you see everyday people make?
I think the biggest mistake is people don't ask questions. So they go, oh, that's not going to be deductible. My accountant doesn't need that. And so they don't share information because they might not think it's relevant. And so sometimes, like, I mean, Zoom is great now because I'm talking to somebody and then I watch 2 kids walk by and I'm like, do you have kids? They're like, yeah, is that important? Yeah, we could have been claiming them on your taxes for the last 5 years. What do you, oh, I didn't know that was. So sometimes people are reluctant to share information because they're embarrassed or they don't want people to think they don't know. So I think one thing is not asking questions. And the biggest thing is not asking before you do the transaction. So, I had somebody sell, they had a $500,000 capital gain on some stocks. And I asked him, I was like, you were 2 days before it turning into a long-term capital gain. Was there an urgency to sell that? They said, no. I said, well, it makes a difference because now you're going to pay ordinary taxes instead of capital gains rate. They went, oh my God, I was like, you could have asked me. Like 2 days just cost you significant amounts of money because you didn't ask. So after the fact, I can't always fix things. So ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking an expert or somebody else that's been in that situation to make sure you're doing it right.
And we touched on that earlier. Some people just have such a hard time acting like they don't know something. And it's so important to ask what you don't know. Man.
It is. And it's interesting. My practice over the last several years has gotten a reputation. People know that I am this is the busiest time of year. November and December is the busiest time of year for me. I'm doing all the tax planning. We're figuring out all the numbers. So fund to SEP, convert a Roth. Oh, you didn't make money this year? Let's convert your 401k. Like, we're looking at all the strategies that we can't do January 2nd. And so people are fighting over, like, this is my busiest. Everybody's fighting to make sure they got an appointment with me because they've all learned, because of consequence or because of me telling stories of consequence. Everybody, like, we are known for being tax strategists and that we do it ahead of time, not after the fact.
Yeah, so important. So what's one thing people should stop doing immediately?
One thing that they should stop doing immediately, putting everything on a credit card impulsively.
Okay.
credit card stuff adds up so quick, and people, I know things are tight now, and people will put their groceries on a credit card. People will put the gas on a credit card, and all those basics. If you absolutely can't, I get it. But if you can use cash, if you can use a debit card, when I went through my financial poverty period, I froze all my credit cards and I only used debit cards because if I didn't have the money, I wasn't paying for it. And it taught me, okay, well, I'll get that in 2 weeks. I'll get that in a month. And I had to force myself to go back to what can I afford, not what can I easily put on a credit card that I will have to pay at some point with lots of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a study somewhere, even from cash to debit card, the amount of spending is so much tighter when you're spending cash than if you're just hitting it with the plastic. If you're just hitting with the plastic, you're going to spend it so much more freely.
Well, the interesting thing is when I hand over a credit card, whether you charge 5,000 or 500, as long as it doesn't decline, I don't feel anything.
Right.
With cash, I take $100 bill out, man. I'm going to hold on to it. I don't, because once that 100 becomes 520s, it's gone. Right. Yeah. And so I've got skin in the game when I'm using cash. Yeah. And a lot of wealthy, uber wealthy folks will say, I keep a bit of cash in my pocket because I don't want to lose the relationship with money.
Yeah. Well, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I mean, you go so many places these days and it blows my mind, but we don't accept cash. We don't accept cash.
They don't. And, one of the things that I started doing a couple of years ago, just because, I like to get my points sort of. When I go out and charge stuff at the end of the week, I transfer money from my bank account and pay down the credit card so that I only spent the money that I have, so that I don't get a big bill at the end of the month because, I spent $500. I'm transferring $500. Yeah. So I have lots of payments on my credit cards, but that helps me because, most people contactless transactions and they want the credit card, but I want to use cash.
We get set up on those little withdrawals as well that we're not even so aware of. That's just trickling in the background. And so what I've done for myself over a set period of time, I don't know if it's annually or just whenever I just feel like it, I just call my credit card because I don't remember when my card has been to get these little monthly recurring charges. And so I call my credit card company and I just tell them, I've misplaced my card. Could you issue me a new one and with new numbers and everything? And then I start getting notifications. Hey, this payment didn't go through. And then I'm like, okay, well, good. I don't want those anyways. And that's how I've myself have kind of like cut off some of these that I just forget about.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I haven't heard that one before, so I'm going to steal that and make a note of it. I love that. Yeah. Because it's so easy. And so one thing people should do, pull out their credit card statements and pull out their phone bills. I was paying for a free iPhone or a free iPad. The guy had told me, it's a free iPad. And then I looked and I was paying $80 a month for 2 years. Well, that wasn't free. Right. But he told me it was a free and I didn't look, right? And I know better. I know better. And I just went, he said it was free.
No, it's so easy. Let's touch on somatic therapy. That's not a term I was aware of.
Okay.
And so I'm sure there's other people that, aren't familiar with that. What is that?
Yeah. So somatic therapy is body-based therapy, experiential. And I mean, I think the best way to describe, and hence the reason the name of the money nerve for the book, right? It's a nerve. When you win a lottery ticket, people go, I won. And you feel this, euphoric feeling. Your body gets all excited. When you go into a store and they decline your credit card, you get a knot in your stomach. You want to vomit maybe, right? So many people have health issues because they're so stressed out about finances. And so we hold things in the body. And so somatic therapy is about how do we get into our bodies and then release all that stuff that we're holding whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's shame, whatever it is. And so what I do is I work with couples and I work with individuals. I also like working in groups, to just do a lot of things around money and desires and wants, and letting people really feel what's true for them. Because a lot of times, and what I call the undervoice, I can ask a group of people, who wants to be rich? Everybody's like, I want to be rich. I want to be rich. Right. But secretly their voice is going, you don't deserve it. You're a piece of work. You don't. Right. That's the voice I want to talk to. I don't want the voice where everybody's like, yeah, I want to be rich. I want to have a nice car. I want the voice that says, you'll never have it. You don't work hard enough, whatever the stories are. Yeah. When we can get into that, then we can help release, so that when money comes in, we can go, oh, that feels good, but not have such a reaction when, a lot of people take themselves out. Oh, the credit card declined. I'm worthless. I'm an idiot. And we just start the judging. Yeah. And for me, the somatic is a great way you can logically talk about it, but until you feel, oh yeah, I feel that shame. Oh yeah, I feel that excitement when I took a positive step. When we can start to recognize that, to me, again, that feeling it, letting it go, helps me connect with my happiness and my self-fulfillment. And am I feeling good about myself?
Sure. And I'm sure some of that comes back to what parents are instilling in their children. I didn't hear this personally, but my parents told me. My grandparents and that my family, my parents' family, they were from very, very modest, humble beginnings back in the Virginia area, and my father moved us up to Michigan. And so when he got a good job with Chrysler, and when he would come back, his parents, my grandparents would tell him, oh, he's trying to live above his raisings. He's trying to live above his raisings. Yeah. And I mean, he just got a good job. But these little comments, I think, a lot of those things impact their children.
For sure.
Have these, have these thoughts and, problems afterwards.
Absolutely. And I work with some folks that are in, a specific culture or ethnicity, or and they'll say, oh, if you're successful, you have to bring the entire family along. So it's better to not be successful, because now you're responsible for all your aunts and your uncles and your cousins. Okay. And it's an expected debt. Hey, you made it. You rose above. You got to bring us all with you. And here's the thing. We don't get to bring everybody with us.
Right. Right. Yeah.
As sad as that may be, we don't.
Yeah. So you're a finance expert and a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Crazy. A CFO of the world famous comedy store.
Yeah.
Those don't usually go together.
They do not.
Hear finances and comedy. That's quite contradictory, really. So how'd that come together?
Well, I'm very left brain, right brain. So I've got the very logical and the very creative competing with each other. And for me, getting into stand-up originally, one, because people would say you're funny, and I enjoyed making people laugh, and it was easier to make people laugh than have to fight them or run. I was little, so I learned to run fast. So comedy for me was, and I think probably true for a lot of comics, initially it was therapy, right? I could, for whatever reason, I felt safe standing up with a mic in front of me. The mic felt protective, even though everybody else would be like, yeah, but you're in front of a whole bunch. I can't tell you why. It worked. So I could get up there and I could say mean things, and I could say the things I was really thinking, and then just go kidding, right? So I got to let out my truth without having to worry that people were judging me. And I made people laugh, and I like to make people laugh. I love to laugh. Sure. You don't have to speak my language for me to get you to laugh, right? I just have to be goofy. I don't have to be logical. I just need to make you laugh. And I was doing stand-up for a bit, and the Comedy Store had gotten in financial trouble. They hadn't paid some payroll taxes. The IRS was going to shut their doors.
Okay.
And a friend of mine had told Mitzi, the owner, hey, Bob's a CPA. He could probably help you out. And I was like, no, I don't want to help you out. I just want to do comedy. And I ended up stepping in with my credentials and helping turn things around. And
Good.
she and I had a good connection. And she's like, you got to stay with me and you got to help me. And so I did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you see any, can you draw anything from the comedy that has taught you about money?
Well, I think the biggest thing is don't take yourself so serious.
Okay.
Right? We get so busy trying to be perfect and present like amazing. And you got to be able to laugh at yourself. And I do a lot of self-deprecating humor and we got to be able to laugh. And it just, when there's things that are really tense, if I throw out a joke, even like in a negotiation with lawyers and everybody's fighting, I'll throw out a joke and everybody, it makes the room lighter.
Sure.
But I think we take ourselves too serious. And I think we all have to be able to, life is too short to not have a little fun.
Definitely too short. So what do you find, what's more difficult, getting someone to open up about their finances or getting a room full of people to laugh?
Probably getting people to up and up about their finances.
I would imagine.
People, it's crazy. People don't like to talk about sex, politics, religion, and money. Like, they will talk about all kinds of stuff, but talk about money, ask them what they make, people just clam up so quickly if it doesn't feel safe or they think they're being judged.
Sure. So what's your funniest moment that you've had on stage or in the office?
I don't know why this just came to me, but when I was first doing comedy, probably a couple years in, and I'd gotten pretty good, and I was down in La Jolla, and I was getting ready to go up on stage, and the comic before me had done well, and it was a full crowd, and this lady just gets up from the audience, drunk out of her mind, starts screaming, yelling at everybody and obscenities, and then she stormed out of the club, and everybody's just standing there and sitting there going, what's happening? They're like, hey, Bob, you're next. Right. And I'm like, oh my God. Right. I walk up on stage and I just go, give it up for my mom. She always comes to my shows, but she never stays for my sets. Okay. And the crowd just went crazy. And I'm like, I'm in. Right. Nice. And just calling the truth, sort of truth of naming what had happened. And it was just, I couldn't believe that, like, everybody was just so on board. And that under pressure, that was a very fun moment.
I could imagine.
It's hard to recover from stuff like that happens in the room.
Right. But it sounded like you did perfectly. You captured it and built off of it. And I'm sure
it was perfect.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure it was. So if there's anyone listening today and they're at home saying, my money situation is a mess, what would be the first step that you would say to them?
First thing I would say is to start writing down your story. Start journaling about why my money's a mess, and really just start to actually put down your evidence. Doesn't mean it's true or not, but write down your story. I'm always broke. Nobody likes me. I never get paid what I'm like, whatever the story, start writing it down, because until we can actually see and hear what we're telling ourselves, it's all unconscious. And so I want to bring it to consciousness, and I want to name those things so that I can start saying, oh, that's not really true anymore. Or, oh, that doesn't really serve me. Or, yeah, I don't even know why I thought that. So that we can then start to get rid of the myths and the fiction and actually focus on what is true.
Sure. One core money habit that we all should have.
Save. Put some aside.
Okay.
No matter what. You get a bonus check, put some aside. You get an inheritance, put some aside. Like, put some money aside. You don't have to spend it all in the moment that you get it.
That is it. It really is. You know, I read a book. It's a big series. I feel horrible. I can't credit the author. It's not coming to me, but it's called The Millionaire Mind. It's a whole series. The Millionaire Next Door, The Mind of a Millionaire. They profile self-made millionaires, and in it, they spoke to doctors, they spoke to lawyers, they spoke to engineers, and all doctors weren't self-made millionaires, all engineers weren't self-made millionaires. So it wasn't really their career. You know, what was it? And it really came down to, it didn't matter how much money you made. It really just how much money you save.
Yeah.
And, you know, the other day I read something and it said a lot of people's habits are they save what's left after spending.
Right.
And it should be spend what's left after saving.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And and even if you can save $2, like some people, well, that's not enough. Start with 2, then work your way to 4, then work your way to 50, then work baby steps.
Sure. So before we wrap up, you've got something that really lines up with people who listen to this show, the $1 ebook deal. Tell people what it is and why should they get it.
The reason they should get it, what it is it's the ebook of the Money Nerve. My Money Nerve book has chapters on emotions and all the different aspects of money. But at the end of each chapter, there are calls to action. Okay. How did you feel about this? What is your story? What did your parents teach you? What did your grandparents teach you? And there's a lot of great questions that just get you thinking about your own story. And I think that's so important to excavate what you've put away as a little kid. And so if you go and get that ebook, you'll have the opportunity to go through those questions. You can start to look at your own story and say, oh, that's where I get that from.
Sure.
And is it serving me?
So for anyone listening, go to dollarbookdeal.com. If you're stuck in the same money patterns year after year, this book will shake that loose. It's only $1. If you're not willing to invest $1 into changing your financial life, there's the real problem. So, exactly. Bob, it was a great show. It really was. I appreciate the work you're doing and honesty you bring to the conversation about money. And I really appreciate you for coming in and sharing your time with us today. So thank you.
Well, absolutely, David. I appreciate it. I love these conversations and we'll all get there. It's just one step at a time.
Sure. Before we go, do you have anything you want to say to everybody listening? Any final words to anybody?
You know, I think I would say, because we're getting ready to go into a new year and or a new month, whatever you want to look at. We all have the power of choice. And sometimes we get into this victim mentality and I've got to find somebody outside of me to save me. And the reality is you have the choice and the power to say, I'm going to do it differently. You just have to show up. So I just encourage everybody to show up.
Definitely. So everybody listening, remember, excuses don't build wealth. Action does. So Bob, thank you again. It was great meeting you. And I loved hearing what you had to share. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great one.
You too.